Howdy! Welcome to another episode of A Moment of Tiki from my home tiki bar, the Lagoon of Mystery. Now, I bet you're wondering about now, why am I lying on the floor in front of this grungy cat door? Good question. When we first moved into this house, we had to come up with a way for our cats to move in and out. We have accumulated a number of strays and rescues over the years, and most of them are inside-outside cats. We had a cat door at the old house, but none of the doors here really lent themselves to it. A lot of them had glass. And so as a temporary measure, I got a couple of scrap boards and rigged up this cat door, entrance and exit for the kitty cats, in the window opening into my tiki bar. Well, as is plain to see, this isn't very tiki. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't blend, as the term goes. So I started thinking, what can I do to maintain this cat door but make it more appropriate for a tiki environment? Also, there are gaps. It's not very well fitted. It gets breezy in the winter, and occasionally you get insects kind of slipping through there, spiders and stuff. And we live in an area with a lot of scorpions, so that's not really something that we wanted to encourage. So I wanted to come up with something that, one, fit the aesthetic a little better than this currently does, and two, was more tailored to fit the space and have better sealing and weather protection. And if you come along with me, we'll see what we come up with.
I purchased a 1x12 pine board, the cheapest I could find, and cut it to length to fit in the window. Following the instructions included in the cat door packaging, I located where the cat door would go and traced the opening in pencil. Using a large drill bit, I made a pilot hole, then cut out the opening with a jigsaw. Afterwards, I sanded the opening and added the triangular router pattern using a stencil I'd made for previous projects. Next up, I sketched out a variety of cat designs, settling on this cartoonish Whitco-inspired style. I measured the available space, then cut a square of cardboard that was 1/3 the length of that space. On this, I cut out the cat pattern and used it as a stencil to draw 3 cats on either side of the cat door in the wood. This next step can be done traditionally with chisels and gouges, but my skills are still lacking in that area. Instead, I use a Dremel with a round wood-cutting bit to cut the outline of the cats into the wood. I only go about 1/16 of an inch deep. That's maybe 3 millimeters for the rest of the world. Be patient. You can always cut more wood away, but once it's gone, you can't put it back. After the cat outlines are fully cut into place, I use a cylindrical high-speed cutting bit to hog out the wood filling all that negative space. I try to get that carved out area as flat as possible, but the imprecise nature of handheld power carving leaves it nicely uneven and textured. I use a much larger round bit to hollow out the eyes. I go pretty deep so the detail won't be lost during the next step. Torching the wood might be the most fun step in the entire process. I use the same cheap Bernzomatic propane torch that I use to treat my bamboo. Unlike with the bamboo, my goal is to burn the wood, not just singe it. The density of wood varies with the grain, and the softer wood burns more easily than the hard. The wood burns, carbonizes, and turns to soot. If your board catches fire, though, you've overdone it. Once I finished torching the wood, it was time to attack it with a wire brush. This is my least favorite part because my shoulders and arms hurt afterwards. Brushing removes all of the charred, carbonized wood, leaving a highly textured surface that creates the illusion of age and weathering. In tiki bars, this is always a nice touch. Be sure to do this in a well-ventilated area and wear a breathing mask when doing so, and clean up the dust afterward. So here I am staining cats using my go-to Minwax Special Walnut. Put a coat on this side, a coat on that side, the other side. Then after it's set for maybe 10-15 minutes, I will wipe it down with a rag to get up any excess. And after it's dried for 24 hours, I will repeat the process with Minwax Dark Walnut, which will give it a really rich, deep tone. Lots of depth of color. Once the stain has fully dried, it's time to apply the final top coat to the wood. I prefer a urethane finish as it protects and waterproofs, but there are a number of different oil or water-based finishes you could choose from. If your project is going indoors, a polyurethane finish works well. For outdoor projects, however, the ultraviolet rays and sunlight would break the poly down quickly, so a spar urethane or marine varnish with UV resistance is necessary. That's the way I went. I prefer the subtle sheen of a satin finish, but you could choose matte, semi-gloss, or gloss depending on your personal taste. A minimum of 2 coats are necessary for traditional urethane, and a minimum of 4 for a thinner, water-based urethane.
Now, you'll notice right along here, I routered a divot along each edge. This is because the board width itself was too thick to fit into the windowsill slot. And by routering right here, that allows for a tight, flush fit and very little airflow or gaps for critters to get through. Now that the routing is finished and the urethane is dry, it's time to fit it into the open slot. Now this, now it fits right in that corner, and I made one a little more deeper than the other so I could work it in there, and it fits both sides. And now just pull the window down into place and we have a seal. There's one more detail I'd like to share with you before we wrap this up. You'll notice that the window here is no longer able to actually lock. It just slides up and down, which could be a security issue. So to deal with that, I took a dowel, cut it to length, and I just insert it right here on the side. Now that holds the window in place, and we don't need to necessarily worry about uninvited guests coming in through an unlocked window. And here we have the Whitgo style cat door fully installed, so our cats can come and go as they please. I think you'll agree that the color, texture, and design elements fit in with the tiki bar aesthetic far more than the previous 2 planks of wood and the grungy cat door did. This goes to show that you can have nice additions to your tiki bar without spending a whole lot of money, especially if you already have some fairly common tools around the house, a Dremel or a router, something like that. Apart from repurposing an existing cat door, cleaning it up and painting it with spray paint, I designed the patterns myself. I routered and dremeled out the cat designs, and then I stained it, torched it, put a final coat of spar urethane over it to protect it from the elements, and we have the finished product. I'd never tried something like this prior to doing this right here myself, and I think it turned out fairly well, and that means you can do it too. There's nothing stopping you. So hopefully you've been able to take a few pointers from this. Hopefully you've been able to get a little bit more inspiration and go out there and build something.